I'm Shivani Gupta, and welcome to the Ask Shivani podcast. I believe that one of the best presents that you can give yourself is time to be able to sit down and ask yourself some questions. I believe that the quality of the questions that you ask yourself will determine the quality of your life. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Ask Shivani podcast. I'm really excited to have Caralee Fontenele on my podcast today. I met Caralee through EO, or the Entrepreneurs Organisation, a couple of years ago, and just loved her energy and enthusiasm for life. And she's quite an extraordinary businesswoman as well. Let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll dive into some of the questions that we've got and find out more about her. One of the things that Caralee now does is she helps law firms and the owners scale their business without actually getting to burnout. In that particular industry, that happens a lot. She also leads an incredible team of legal professionals and really helping them through separation and divorce. And we'll talk a bit about her journey in terms of how she got to that. She is herself also a podcast host. She's an author. She is currently on the EO Queensland board. She went to, and started working and started businesses very early in her age, like as early as the early 20s, and has really loved business. And we'll find out a lot more about her in a moment. Welcome, Caralee.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's really exciting. And Caralee, when I read your CV, and obviously having got to know you a little bit over the last couple of years, there's so many things that you do. I know you've raised a bunch of money for charity. I know you're on, volunteer boards. I know you spoke at the International Women's Day event that I was at. So there's so many different things that you do. Take us through a little bit of your highlights, the big things that you're proud of, and perhaps some of the lowlights in your life that have got to where you have. And I find that, they might be different for every person, but they're the moments that have really transformed you into who you are today. So tell us a bit about them.
Well, I think starting with the highlights, one of the big highlights for me was really making the decision to go back to uni or go to uni for the first time when I was 30 and to study law and actually finishing that and completing that. That was something that just was not on my radar at all. I left school when I was 16. So for a lot of lawyers, it's not really a big deal. The expectation was that they went to school and that they went to uni and they became a lawyer or a doctor or whatever it might have been. For me, that just wasn't part of my upbringing, or even, in my early 20s, because I was a young mum. And I was someone who was always sort of clever in the business side of life naturally. And so had fallen into business really, really young with my then husband. And so for me to be branching out on my own and doing something like studying law and then actually completing it and becoming a lawyer and then starting a firm, that's sort of probably one of the prouder highlights, I guess you could say. And I guess the highlight comes because of where I've come from. Yeah. In terms of lowlights, I think career-wise, a lot of failed ideas and businesses over the years, starting from, when I was in my early 20s and leaning on others. So, being married and being in a business with my ex-husband and things like that, it sort of knocks your confidence because even though in hindsight, I look back and I think I was a really big integral part of those businesses. You're feeling like you're not doing it on your own terms or on your own. And then after that, I had lots of little businesses. I still get calls for some of the businesses that I had because they're on directories and things like that. But having them fail and then or losing interest in them because I'm someone who can be a bit scattered and have lots of great ideas and not following through, it can knock your confidence. So to then come through, find the direction and be really successful in what I've been doing has been a massive lowlights leading to highlights, I guess you could say.
Yeah, amazing. I just think it's amazing that you went to uni at 30, as you said, particularly in that profession where it's drummed into them at a very early age, if that's what you're going to do. I've got a just this week turned 12 son who's like, I think I want to be a lawyer, mum. So we'll wait and see, Caralee. I might link him up with you in a few years' time.
Well, it is a
Does.
great profession to be in, and it's a great profession to be in and be a business owner in. And and I think having my experience as in other businesses prior to coming to the law has really been a huge help to me, because a lot of lawyers get really, really stuck, which is why I started the second business, which is helping law firm owners scale.
Yeah, awesome. And so you've had lots of challenges. You've had businesses that you've started, and as you shared, that haven't done very well. Obviously, lots of personal challenges and business challenge, continuing to grow some of that. And so some people have like a philosophy, or they have a way of dealing with challenges. Like when challenges come your way, Caralee, like whether they're in work or personal or different areas or family, how do you do them? Like, do you have a process or a ritual? Like, how do you deal with them? How do you attack them when they come your way?
I think it's all about your mindset. And for me, I have been working on so much, and even more so lately, that it's all of these things, whether it's relationships or business or whatever it might be in your life, they're not a destination. And it's all actually a journey. And I think so much of the time we take on board that everything's going to be great when we reach this destination. So in our relationships, everything's going to be great when we are old and holding, the hand of the person we've been with the last 50 years, and we've got grandkids together and all of that kind of stuff. And we view it like this destination of life. And same with our businesses, like there's an end point. But I think for me, I've just sort of realized and have been embracing there isn't a destination. There isn't an end point. The end point is death, really. And so we have to actually embrace the journey, rather than always be seeking this perfection and seeking this final destination of these big things in our lives, because there just isn't one. And I think, not getting hung up on that perfectionist, it has to look like this, really helps me to overcome those challenges, because it's just another ebb and flow in whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, and it's interesting when I'm speaking to certain women, even as mentoring clients, that there's almost more pressure on us now with perhaps whether being Insta worthy or fitting in, because there's so much pressure telling us what perfect is. But I think your guidance around and advice around, just letting that piece go and seeing and enjoying that piece of it is really important. And so all the different things that you've done, Caralee, like when you look at the future, and some people look at a year out, some people look at 23, 20 or 30 years out, like whatever time frame that you have, what are some of the other things that you really want to do? Now, again, they might be business-wise, they might be personal, but what are some of your future aspirations in terms of what you want to do?
Yeah, for me, I've got 3 kids. So, and one's 21, one's 18, and one's 11. And so for me, the 11-year-old is kind of turning 18 when I'm about 50. So there's been this, idea that at 50, it's going to be a destination for me, which I'm now kind of embracing that it isn't. And, and there's life well beyond that, because that's only 6 years away. But I do, that is a big kind of time frame for me in terms of having that freedom of not being around for school drop-offs and having the responsibility of, parenting young children. And so I've always sort of thought, when I'm 50 or thereabouts and my youngest has, become independent, that I would do a lot more travel, because I was 22 when I had my first child. And so that's sort of why I've also set up my business, which is the scalable law firm, for so that I can be a little bit more remote, and also so that I can create myself work overseas and the ability to travel for work, because a lot of my clients are in the US or the UK or Canada, as well as Australia and New Zealand. So that's one of the things. I love sailing. I grew up sailing. And so I would love to buy a yacht in France and travel around for a couple of years. So that's sort of one of the things that's on my radar. The other thing that's on my radar is that my husband is from Brazil, from a beautiful small town, and we want to buy a property there and sort of be there sometimes as well. So I think just a little bit more of that freedom to move about as I wish is in my future for sure. But for now, my law firm, knuckling down on that, and getting my kids through school, you can't kind of have that nomadic life like I would like to. And, who knows, I might do it for a couple of years and think, oh, it's better to have your feet on the ground more often. I don't know. But that's where I'm sort of looking at.
That's beautiful. And I've, from somebody that's turning 50 this week,
wow, congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you. I don't, this is going to sound so silly, Caralee, but I don't know when that happened. Because I look at me, at 20, and that was obviously part of that journey in terms of getting here too. But at that age, there was so much insecurity and wanting to please people, where now it's like, I don't really care, and doing whatever is right. And, whatever's also right in the moment. What's right today might not be right in 2 months' time, and just calling the shots and feeling through them in terms of what you want to do. So yeah, I can certainly resonate with them, but I had kids later than you, so I've still got 5 years ahead of me too of schooling. And so that's amazing, like lots of travel, lots of working from anywhere, and obviously building some of those businesses between now and then. And when it comes to your wellness, obviously you're helping other people scale, making sure that they don't burn out. And so, to me, the opposite of burnout is obviously being really well. And so when you're helping other people not get to burn out, look at their own wellness, look at how they have their patterns and things that they look after themselves, what are some of the rituals and that you have? And sometimes people do things daily, other times they do them annually or even further apart. What are some of the things you do to manage your own wellness?
One of the things I think that a lot of people don't do, but I do really well, is have really clear boundaries around work. And they're not boundaries that other people cross. It's boundaries that you cross personally, like checking your email late at night while you're sitting in bed, or working on the weekends, or feeling pressure to respond to a client on the weekend or whatever it might be. So, I mean, after 6 o'clock, you're not going to get any work out of me ever at night, and I'm not going to respond to any emails. I don't check my email, and I don't check my email on the weekend ever either, because you can't actually do anything substantive to be helpful to anyone. And then if you do respond, you're just setting yourself up to allow other people to have poor boundaries around you as well. So that's a really important one, having really good boundaries around when you're going to be doing work and when you're not. And so that's one. The other thing is taking plenty of time for yourself. So, I mean, as we've already discussed, I love travel and holidays. And so, I always make sure I've got plenty of fun things booked in, and travel booked in, and time out for me. So yes, that's definitely a big one as well. So, and then just the usual, keeping your eating healthy as you can, which can be really tricky when you're going to a lot of functions and things like that. But yeah, just keeping all of that in check, keeping alcohol in check. As a lawyer, that's a pitfall that a lot of people fall into. And so you've got to be, really, really careful around those kinds of things, just being honest with yourself about that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think a lot of people talk about travel as an aspirational thing, right, in terms of what they want to do. And you spoke about that, but it's, it's great to hear you sort of say that's actually part of my well-being, like just having some time to get away, going to beautiful places, experiencing things. It's actually part of my well-being as well.
Yes, I find that when I particularly overseas travel, when you disconnect a little bit, because the time difference is a difference as well, and you've got that disconnection, it just gives you the space. And I find for me, that's when my best creative ideas come. Like that's when I'm actually able to, just spend that time, have that white space blanked out. And so I just recently came back from a week in Fiji. You don't do anything in Fiji, you just sit there. And it's just so nice. Like, you don't have to worry about anything because everything's just done for you. You don't even have to worry about really what you're eating because there's one restaurant at a resort. So everything's simple and easy. And this year I've got lots of travel booked. I'm going to Nashville for a conference and then tacking on Mexico. I'm actually doing that trip by myself, which I've never done I've done conferences on my own and more than happy to do that, but I've never actually traveled solo completely. I often have my 11-year-old daughter with me. So that will be interesting, going to Mexico on my own. And then I've booked in Tony Robbins later in the year. I'm going to do Date with Destiny over in Miami. So that's something totally about me and about my mental health and growth and all of that kind of thing. And then later in the year, Christmas, I'm taking the whole family to Africa. We're going to Tanzania. So lots of travel planned.
Oh, they sound so beautiful. And they're also different too. I love the variety that you've got planned in there. I just thought I'd share while I'm speaking to you. I do a week by myself every year. And I've just recently had 2 weeks for a conference and then went to New York by myself. So I've been to New York with the family and
How
with
was
my
it?
husband and just had a week by myself. It was extraordinary. And I think, and you and I talk about this sometimes in EO, which we're a part of, that it's great listening to speakers and great going to conferences, but you need what I call integration time. You need space to actually think and be. And in the British Virgin Islands, or BVI as it's known, that's been a 12-year goal to get to that particular conference for me. So afterwards, I just didn't want to rush back and get back straight back into school lunches. I wanted to actually just have some space and time to absorb myself, but absorb some of the learnings in a very noisy city. And actually have some time to myself. So yeah, we can talk about that, but it was so beautiful. And I've had that ritual for about a decade now. Once a year, I just usually have a week by myself in Byron, or go to a health retreat, or just do something. And yeah, I absolutely love it. And I think as I get older, I think I'm going to need a lot more than a week, Caralee.
It's so good. And I've been toying with it. Like, do I feel brave enough? Because I wanted to go to this particular spot in Mexico, which is called Puerto Vila. I think it's called PV for short. It's on the same coast as Cabo. And I really want to go. And I really wasn't thinking I'd go by myself, but I don't have a companion. So it's like, well, why not? I don't want to waste the trip all the way over to that part of the world and not tack on something. And I did think, I could go to New York, or I could go there. And it's like, but you can go wherever you want if you're just doing you. So where do you actually want to go and what do you want to do? And so I've booked it. I actually booked it on the weekend, and I'm really excited about it and about just it being me and challenging myself in that way.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Sounds like we might have to have another conversation when you get back and listen to you with some of your learnings in terms of what you want to do too. And in terms of what's the best way for people to find out? Say they're running a law firm, Caralee, or they're going, this woman sounds amazing and interesting. What are the best platforms or places for people to find you and come in contact with you?
I'm everywhere. You can find me everywhere. One of the places you can find me is LinkedIn. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, but these days Facebook just isn't punching it doesn't have the same powwow as it used to. So I don't really focus on that. And then, of course, my website, you can find me over at scalablelaw.com, or my website in my own name, caraleefontenele.com.
That's fantastic. I might hang on and talk to you for a moment longer, but I'm so grateful, Caralee. Thank you for making the time today, and really excited to see you on your adventures for this year and beyond.
You can follow me on Instagram. I share lots of my adventures over there, so it would be great to connect there too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Shivani Gupta, and you've been listening to the Ask Shivani podcast, where I got to ask some questions. Thank you so much for listening. Please follow Ask Shivani on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you haven't done so, please go to the Apple podcast and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It would mean a lot. Thank you.